Dear comrades, Kathleen van Bremt, dear Andras Scheider and Tonino Pizzula and other MEPs attending this event, dear friends, fellow progressives, honored guests, it is my pleasure to address you at a gathering that carries the name of one of Europe's greatest social democrats, Willy Brandt. A man who devoted himself to freedom, peace and democracy, and who understood profoundly that peace is not merely the absence of war, but the presence of justice. As he stood before the Warsaw Ghetto Memorial and knelt, Willy Brandt did not speak, yet his silence echoed louder than any speech. He reminded the world that reconciliation is built not on forgetting or denying, but on accepting responsibility. Today, in the face of renewed threats to democracy and peace and to European unity, it is not enough to simply admire Willy Brandt's legacy. We must rise to it. As social democrats, we share the belief that politics must serve the people, not the powerful. That the economy must work for everyone, not just for the wealthy. And that democracy must be defended, not just during crisis. It is no exaggeration to say that democracy today is under attack. From the rise of far right in our parliaments to the spread of disinformation in our societies, from oligarchs' ownership of the media to the corruption that undermines trust in our institutions, the threats we face are present and they are real. This means that all of us have a responsibility to stand up and do our part. As Karl Popper warned us, the enemy of open society is not just the tyrant, but those who look the other way. We must not look the other way. The European Union has never meant to be just an economic project. It was first and foremost a project built on the rejection of fascism that tore our continent apart. An idea laid out by Schuman and Monnet and perfected by leaders like Willy Brandt, who understood that Europe would only survive if it worked together with solidarity based on shared values of democracy, human dignity, and civil rights. They understood that conflict could be avoided by working together through common institutions. Thus, at a time when Europe was still cleaning up the rubble left by World War II, when pain and suffering were great and hatred and mistrust were still prevalent, those leaders gave us the European coal and steel community which laid the foundations for a peaceful and united Europe. Today, this legacy, the European Union, which has brought the longest peace Europe has ever witnessed, is under attack by some leaders who claim the European Union is a threat to their sovereignty, when in fact it is the greatest protector of it. These leaders are weaponizing economic fears to turn workers against migrants and citizens against each other. In an era where information is easily manipulated through fake news, deep fakes and disinformation campaigns designed to sow doubt in democracy, they can succeed unless we, as progressives, take a stand. Because we've seen this movie before and we know how it ends. To be frank, those in Europe who attack the European Union on the grounds that it undermines state sovereignty, whether intentionally or not, are catering to Russia and those who seek to divide the European Union. No European state today possesses the strength to stand alone against the great powers of the world. So, when and if we fail to stand together, we will forfeit our collective influence and security. The European Union must be defended, for it is indispensable to our shared future. The future of my country, Republic of Kosovo, and all other countries in Europe is linked with the future of Europe, and the future of Europe is linked with the success of the European Union. Europe's commitments to its fundamental values and principles are also being tested in the Western Balkans. For decades, our region has been promised a European future within the European Union, yet that future has not materialized. The merit-based process focused on EU fundamental values gave way to maintaining stability and the status quo. This approach favored strong leaders over strong values, leaders who, instead of committing to reforms, focused on strengthening their grip on power. Of course, it is the citizens of the Western Balkans who are paying the price for such policies. But if these policies are not adjusted, it will be Europe that ultimately pays the price. History has shown us that our fates are interlinked. A conflict in one corner of Europe threatens our collective security, and again, the Western Balkans are surrounded by the borders of the European Union. We are not European Union's neighbor. We are European Union's front yard. There is no better example of the EU's test than my country, Kosovo. Kosovo is a success story. From a society devastated by war, we have built a country that is one of the fastest growing economies in the region, and we are becoming one of the most vibrant democracies in Europe. In the last 4 years, we have improved by 31 places in the fight against corruption, according to Transparency International. We've seen the fastest rise in rule of law indicators according to the World Justice Project, and improved liberal and electoral democracy and global freedoms according to Freedom House and VDEM Institute. We had an average economic growth rate of 6%, and for the first time since independence, we have completed a full electoral mandate of 4 years. For us progressives, economic growth means social well-being. Growth is not supposed to be held back for the state, but should be distributed in the society and create equal opportunities for all. Every 8th euro of our growing economy, which was achieved despite multiple crises, was redistributed to those most vulnerable who are struggling with the economic crisis, citizens and small businesses. This made us the government with the biggest support package in the region relative to GDP, as confirmed by the World Bank. And we have moved from being a recipient of World Bank aid to becoming a donor. We introduced for the first time allowances for new mothers and children, increased pensions by 20%, and more than doubled the minimum wage. All this was done without changing fiscal policy, and all the while maintaining the lowest public debt in Europe, 16.52% of GDP, so that we do not develop or grow at the expense of future generations. Kosovo is doing its homework when it comes to enlargement. Besides advancing democracy and growing our economy, we are among top performers when it comes to integration in the European Union. Over the past 4 years, we have successfully addressed numerous long-delayed reforms related to the EU acquis, which have been consistently recommended by the EU for a decade now. In the latest progress report, we scored progress in 36 areas. Only in 2 areas there was no progress, and without any areas with regress. We are the most proactive member of the Berlin process and regional economic cooperation. We are the first country to deliver in time the EU reform agenda for the growth plan for the Western Balkans, and we are among the first to adopt all Berlin process agreements in our parliament. Everyone recognizes Kosovo's impressive progress, yet our application for European Union membership has been left to gather dust for 27 months since we applied. Likewise, our application for Council of Europe is met with resistance and additional criteria that no other country in Europe has been subjected to in their membership process. Meanwhile, within the European Union, we still have 5 member states that refuse to recognize Kosovo as a sovereign state. This weakens the strength of the European Union and Europe itself. Instead of working together to tackle global challenges such as social inequality, climate change, and rising authoritarianism, we are forced to look inward. It was in the chambers of the European Union that one day after Kosovo declared independence, the 27 members of the EU, including today's 5 non-recognizers, in the format of Ministers of Foreign Affairs, issued joint conclusions stating, I quote, "The Council reiterates the European Union's adherence to the principles of the United Nations Charter and the Helsinki Final Act, inter alia, the principles of sovereignty and territorial integrity, and all UN Security Council resolutions. It underlines its conviction that in view of the conflict of the 90s and the extended period of international administration under Security Council Resolution 1244, Kosovo constitutes a sui generis case which does not call into question these principles and resolutions, end of quotation. 2 years later, the highest court in the world, the International Court of Justice, issued an opinion on our Declaration of Independence, which concluded by 10 votes to 4 that the court, I quote, is of the opinion that the Declaration of Independence of Kosovo, adopted on 17 February 2008, did not violate international law, end of quotation. The 5 remaining EU countries must recognize Kosovo, not just because it is the right thing to do, but because a divided European Union on such a fundamental issue withers the EU itself and erodes its foreign policy. A weakened Europe emboldens those who wish to see it fail, autocrats and who believe democracy is negotiable. Indeed, recognizing Kosovo is not only the right thing to do, it is important for the EU's strength, unity and credibility on the global stage. Europe, again, must be defended both politically and militarily. Putin's war on Ukraine is not just an attack on Ukraine, it is an attack on all of us. We must unite and do more. We must invest in our defense, not because we want war, but because we need peace. As Willy Brandt once said, peace is not everything, but without peace, everything is nothing. That is why Europe must not hesitate to strengthen its security and why NATO must remain the cornerstone of our collective defense. We have already met NATO's threshold of 2% of GDP spending on defense, but we recognize that we must do more as part of our collective responsibility. And we will, because we cannot allow autocrats, whether in Moscow or in Belgrade, to determine the future of our continent. And being here among social progressives, where critique is the drive of progress, I want to end my speech in a rather critical note. In these 4 years of my mandate, I have observed a disheartening pattern. Our efforts to advance democracy, the rule of law, and the EU fundamental values are increasingly acknowledged in words, but too rarely supported in action. In other words, our policies have been more liked than supported, while our northern neighbors' policies have been less liked but more supported. Our northern neighbor, who is aggressive and provokes tension and seeks destabilization, today harbors and protects a terrorist, yet it is Kosovo that remains under European Union's restrictive measures. If we were in the 2000s, such a situation would have been unacceptable to any democratic government. And yet today it is tolerated, sometimes even rationalized here in Brussels, where our northern neighbors' simultaneous alignment with both Moscow and Brussels is viewed as a strategic balancing act rather than what it truly is, an affront to EU values and a reflection of failed policy towards Serbia. This is not simply an inconsistency, it is a challenge to the credibility and reputation of the European project. If Brussels is to still be a guardian of Europe's founding principles, then its support must go to those who uphold them, not to those who compromise them. And yet I remain confident that a Europe that aligns its values with its decisions is not only possible, but also necessary now more than ever. Clarity and firmness will make the EU enlargement process stronger, fairer, and ultimately more enduring. Kosovo stands ready to be part of that future. I would like to express in the end my gratitude for the commitment of the Foundation for European Progressive Studies, together with partners Friedrich Ebert, Max van der Stoel and Olof Palme. I would like also to extend my thanks for FEPS and all these above-mentioned partners and others, like the Foundation Jean Jaurès from France, for their joint leadership in conducting the Social Democratic Network Friends of the Western Balkans, from which I have very fond memories of our meeting a year ago in Pristina. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Prime Minister, for your speech, but also for the content of your speech. And as our panel today is called the first panel, Practical Support for EU Accession Preparation, it is about that we as S&D Group also here not only to give input and a platform, but also to listen what can be our practical support for the EU accession. And you mentioned already, let's say, one point, which is not only like the things, but also to support them more. You can always trust that the S&D Group is on the front line for this, but we also want to collect inputs and for how to shape in the future the Willy Brandt program. Before I introduce also our highlighted panel here, let me also thank for the high attention here, and also mention that we are happy that the Secretary General of the Party of European Socialists is amongst us, the Secretary General from the already mentioned FEPS, and also Tom Boymer, which is our former Secretary General, but now in charge of Ukraine issues, and also a lot of members of the S&D Group, and also our Secretary General of the S&D Group in the European Parliament. So we have a lot of interparliamentary cooperation together with a lot of platforms as the European Parliament, and S&D members are very active, but also it is important to come together as progressives, as social democrats. And therefore, I want to go also for our first speaker here, which we were going to collect 5 to 7 minutes inputs, and I want to introduce Ola Stenashi-Yona, Deputy Prime Minister for European and Euro-Atlantic integration, but from Ukraine. But she's online and will come a little later. So then we go to Kristina Gerasimov, the Deputy Prime Minister for also European integration of the Republic of Moldova. Please, Kristina.
Thank you very much, Andreas. Good day to everyone, Your Excellencies. It's a great honor to speak in front of you today and share Moldova's experience on how we're doing on our EU accession path. And I was prepared to speak after Olha Stefanishna. It's extremely difficult to speak after Olha Stefanishna. So my task today is a little bit easier from this perspective, because what we are managing to do these days at home is because of the luxury that we have in Moldova to work in peace on our EU accession path, while our neighbors are fighting for also our freedom, for also our independence, and also for our peace of mind. With that said, I would like to share with you today a few thoughts around the practical support for EU accession for our country. And I will start by sharing with you a little bit of the developments where we are on our accession agenda. So indeed, in the last couple of years, Moldova has progressed significantly in terms of how quickly we moved up from a country that has filed its request for EU membership at the beginning of 2022, and today already being in the midst of a very technical process called the bilateral screening one. We've managed to get to this step in our accession talks due to the fact that we were able to show progress on the 9 reforms that were proposed by the Commission upon receipt of candidate status. We've managed to get the green light from the EU member states in December 2023. We've managed to put together the right structures, the right institutions in place to be able to coordinate in a more efficient manner the efforts that we are undergoing today at home. Last year, according to the enlargement package report, Moldova has been assessed to have managed to show progress on 31 out of the 33 chapters. We continue to work also this year. I think the screening process that we are now part of will also show a lot of the reforms that we are undertaking. As we speak, I'm here with the team as part of the screening process, talking about how Moldova gets ready to be part of the customs union. So chapter 29, colleagues from customs service and other important institutions are sharing with the experts in the Commission how we are doing on our accession track when it comes to the customs field. From this perspective, I would like to also take the opportunity to thank the S&D Group for all of the support for the resolutions in support of Moldova's EU accession path that we've seen in the last few years. We appreciate deeply the political support that we get from your family. A different point on our accession agenda is, of course, our accelerated integration. Our accelerated integration is the possibility for our country to already socialize with processes, with institutions as part of not yet being a member of the European Union, but already having some kind of an observer status that allows us to better understand what's coming in front of us. So here we are already part of Connecting Europe facility. We're able to benefit of the Digital Europe program, Single Market program, Fiscalis. We just recently got the good news that we will be able to operationalize our participation in SEPA very soon. These are all very, very practical support steps that bring Moldova and our institutions closer to the status of a EU member. Being part of these programs allow our public servants to be better prepared in terms of expertise and capacities that any member states today already has, but we have to build up to them in the next couple of years. We also look forward this year to be part of Roaming Like at Home, and also we look forward to the full liberalization of the tariff rate quotas that we've been temporarily benefiting from for the last couple of years. So at home, we are preparing, or we are mobilizing our efforts to be ready for EU accession by 2030. It doesn't mean that we will be member by 2030, of course, but what it's important to know is that we have this ambitious goal to be ready in terms of alignment, in terms of implementation within the next 5 years from now. We are very grateful for all of the support that we are getting from the Commission, either through twinning or TIEX projects that are extremely important for us to beef up the capacity that we're still missing when it comes to transposition of the acquis, when it comes to implementation of certain reforms, or when it comes to the actual building of institutions that we still do not have in Moldova. All of these reforms that we are focusing on in the last couple of years, but also the years ahead, are going to be financially underpinned by a very important instrument, the growth plan, that has been, with your gracious support, been accelerated for Moldova. And here I'll take the opportunity to thank S&D Group again for helping accelerate the adoption of the plan and the acceleration of the trialogues that have taken place recently. And we're very grateful for all of the political statements of support that your group has made during the trialogues to support also the increase for the grants component of the growth plan. The growth plan for Moldova is practical support that will help us not only strengthen the pace of the reforms that we are undertaking, but also to strengthen our economy. You know very well that Moldova, being or neighboring Ukraine, has been suffering a lot from quite a low number of investments. We are struggling with keeping the investors who are in Moldova, but we're also struggling with bringing new investors in Moldova. This is, of course, not only due to the war, this is also due to the fact that we haven't yet finalized the justice sector reform, but we're very committed to bringing it to a successful end, because we know how important rule of law is for investors when it comes to bringing their businesses to Moldova. So from this perspective, I would say this is the economic component, the 1.9 billion euros that will help our country not only accelerate the reforms, but also double the potential of our economy. All of these good practical support activities that we receive on behalf of the EU institutions and the EU member states are, of course, not happening in a vacuum. We have been confronting ourselves with unprecedented challenges during the last years, and it is key for us to make sure that we continue preserving the peace and stability in our country. For us, for Moldova, the European Union is indeed a peace project. It's a project that brings stability and prosperity for the citizens that live in this European space, and we want to be part of it. We have been witnessing, especially during the last year, increased interest from Kremlin to destabilize the situation in Moldova, to derail our European path, to distort the very strong support of our citizens to be part of the European Union. All of the Moldovans are Europeans already. As Commissioner Kos has mentioned herself, it's now up to us to bring the state in the European Union. So here I would like to conclude by again reiterating our full commitment as a country, as a society, as a government for the reform agenda that we are ambitiously fulfilling every day as part of this government's mandate. We very much appreciate already the practical support, and I try to give a few examples of how it looks like for Moldova, and we look forward to strengthening it in the years ahead. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Madam Deputy Prime Minister from Moldova. And I will, without wasting any time, go immediately to our friend Tauland Palla, who is the Minister of State from Albania. Please, Tauland.
Thank you, Andreas. Dear progressives, if I would be asked, or also colleagues from the other countries, why we are here today, why the Western Balkan countries, Moldova, Ukraine, and Georgia are knocking at the doors of the European Union, I would suggest that we would be answering through a quote of Willy Brandt, who was saying that we want to take a chance on more democracy. We are here to ask the European Union, not the progressives, progressives have already decided it, but to ask the European Parliament, to ask the European Union to give us a chance on more democracy. And it goes without saying, as it looks right now, that the European Union is the only remaining world most successful invention of democracy. And you should be glad about that, and we are also very glad to join it. And thank you very much. And thank you very much for keeping the doors open. I know it has been very difficult to speak about this some time ahead, And I know, and I'm a 20-year testimony of the fact that S&D has been the one to keep the door open for such a long time, and I'm very thankful for that. Surely, there are other partners in the European Parliament who should be thanking for, and this is very good that you are going back to keep this program, the Willy Brandt program. I've been one of those who have been participating since the very beginning at this program. And I can only tell today that when it comes to my country, our path towards European Union membership, it is more than a political ambition. It is a national mission for us and a historical necessity. For us, joining the European Union means finally stepping out of the shadow from the past and also anchoring ourselves in a future of peace, liberty, freedom, and equal rights. And keep it in mind, it's the only plan we have. We don't have a plan B. Don't ask us for a plan B, we don't have it. It's a plan for the present, and it is the only plan for the future. And we are proud for the significant progress achieved so far, including also, as we are called here to speak about practical support, including the opening of the 2 clusters of negotiating chapters. And we're ready, maybe next month, after winning next elections on 11th of May against socialist winning in Albania. Our ambition remains clear and unchanged to conclude technical negotiations by Christmas 2027 and to become full members by 2030, with the support of the progressives, for sure. The objective, however, does not rest solely on the work of government, because the EU will not integrate only the government of Albania, it will integrate the entire Albanian society, the entire Albanian state, and with all our independent institutions. Therefore, our progress requires, first of all, strong national coordination. It requires accountability and, for sure, consolidated efforts of the Parliament of Albania and our institution, by not forgetting the civil society, who has a very important role to play. We are deeply aware of the process that is so much demanding. It requires deep, sustained reforms, particularly in the rule of law, anti-corruption, judicial independence, and democratic governance. But we are equally aware that these are not imposed conditions. We are not doing that because we are asked by you to do these efforts, but these are values in which we believe in, and because these are essential for our own society to thrive. Our government is very much motivated also to go ahead with innovation in governance. We are now currently developing a groundbreaking AI-based public procurement system in cooperation with Microsoft and Albanian experts. And surely, if I would be asked today what can we do something more visible with the European Parliament, I've been for a long time member of the Stabilization Association parliamentary committees since the very beginning. They are very good. We meet 2 times a year, which is not good. We can meet more regularly. And maybe the European Parliament can be one of the very first institutions in the European Union to give an example that our place is here, so we can participate more oftenly in debates, such as the debates on the future of Europe, the future of European Union, and other very important topics. I just gave an idea. Surely we'll have a long time to discuss during these 2 days meeting. But to conclude, I would like to stress again that for my country, but I do believe that also for the other countries, I'm sure for Kosovo, that's for sure, that the European Union is not merely a destination, it's our only plan for the future. So we are committed to go on this plan, and we are sure that we have your support. And I'm concluding with another quote from Willy Brandt. It often takes more courage to change one's opinion than to keep it. We managed to change your opinion, so now help us to keep it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister Tauland Palla. And as this is also about collecting ideas, but also about taking our cooperation up to the next step, we can assure you also that as S&D Group, this observership idea is also something what we strongly support. We come now to we have a small change on the podium for those which were looking on the draft agenda, because our friend Ivan Vujovic from Montenegro will come on the second panel. So we have now here with us the pleasure, member of the Parliament of North Macedonia, and the quite fresh, not completely, but quite fresh president also of our sister party STSM, Venko Filipce, with us. Please, Venko, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Your Excellencies, distinguished colleagues. Thank you for the opportunity to address this esteemed gathering. Today I wish to reflect on the pressing global, regional and national challenges before us, and to share a vision rooted in social democratic values, a vision that emphasizes resilience, cooperation and inclusion. In the context of dynamic geopolitical shifts, the rise of digital interdependence, and the imperative of safeguarding democracy and security, a genuine social democratic approach to transatlantic cooperation is both complex and essential. In these transformative times, the social democratic response is not only relevant, it is urgently required. It offers a principled and timely roadmap for socio-political adaptation, one that ensures no one is left behind while prioritizing transatlantic solidarity, digital humanism, social equity, and demographic integrity. Nowhere is this vision more vital than in the Balkans and in my country, North Macedonia, a nation at the crossroads of European aspiration and contemporary geopolitical vulnerability. Dear friends, therefore, let me share with you my opinion that we need a comprehensive social democratic agenda for the enlargement process. The enlargement process is not only a mechanical adaptation of laws or administrative fulfillment of the accession criteria. The enlargement process is becoming more and more an issue of utmost political and geopolitical significance. Unfortunately, in the past years, the enlargement portfolio was in the hands of the commissioner who was very close friend to the Prime Minister Orban. Did he implement the right agenda? We are now facing a government in North Macedonia which is not willing to proceed with the constitutional changes necessary to start the negotiation chapters with the EU. In the past month, they had an intergovernmental session, North Macedonia and Hungary, and Prime Minister Orban is coming out with a statement that we should be in some type of axis in between Hungary, Serbia, and North Macedonia as a kind of award of not starting the negotiations with the EU. The question is now, is there a hidden agenda? Is there something going on behind the curtains? Therefore, Social Democrats must insist on the democratic standards and adherence to the European values and the concept of human rights and freedoms as a most important precondition for the candidate countries to join the EU. The membership in the EU should not be presented as a participation only in the single market. Such approach is strengthening the authoritarian tendencies in many of the candidate countries, giving the autocrats an excuse to abandon the democratic norms and standards. North Macedonia is an example of the lack of strategy, especially among the progressive regarding the European integration. By allowing a bilateralization of the accession process, and here I'm referring to the Bulgarian demands, it is contributed towards the radicalization of the political situation in the country, the significant strengthening of the nationalistic political forces, and the rise of Euroscepticism in the population. The described development not only damaged the process of EU accession in my country, but also opened the door for malignant influence of the third extra-regional actors like Russia and China. North Macedonia now faces a bizarre situation of so-called self-imposed veto because the new government refuses to implement the necessary constitutional changes in order to proceed with the accession talks. However, despite the fact that the current right-wing government, by playing on the card of radicalization of the political situation, is damaging the credibility of the accession process, I haven't heard any critique by the EPP or their sister parties towards the ruling party of VMRO de Pamane. EPP will probably continue to support their sister parties everywhere, whatever they do. That is why I suggest that PES and the SD group in the European Parliament must have their own social democratic enlargement agenda. I'm not suggesting to undermine the expertise of the European Commission and to politicize the issue whether expertise is needed, but to set clear red lines of our social democratic standards for the fulfillment of the criteria for membership. Additionally, we as Social Democrats must understand that the stalemate in the European integration of each of the countries isn't a technical or administrative issue. The stalemate only reinforces the authoritarian tendencies and strengthens the right-wing and far-right political forces in the respective countries and damages the democratic development of these countries. Now it is the right time for Social Democrats to step up and reinforce the enlargement process that for too long was a hostage because of the inertia and the lack of vision. In the politics, there isn't an empty space. If Europe and Social Democrats don't fill the existing vacuum, then anti-democratic and anti-European forces will do that. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Venko, and also I can assure you that today in the morning press briefing, our Vice President Kathleen van Bremt already mentioned that not only S&D is the push for stronger enlargement, but also that we have the trust in the new or in the current Commission that they also put now more pressure on the enlargement. And this Willy Brandt launch today is exactly to fill up the space which have others left. I take now a look on the screens if we, or if somebody technically can give us an indication if we are connected with Kiev. No. So it seems to be that we missed this connection out of technically. So anyway, I want to thank the table here for being so strict on the time, and therefore it's good to go to your questions or remarks. I have as first Onur Eriyüce, our friend from CHP Turkey, which are suffering anyway a hard week. So please take the floor.
Thank you very much for giving me the floor. I mean, I really appreciate this event. Enlargement, it's an important and it's a, let's say, developing engine for the European Union, and as the candidate countries, we want to make our contributions to European integration. Of course, political parties play the main role, but the civil society organizations, scholars, and different actors within the society also can make this enlargement possible. So taking this kind of initiative, improving our interactions, building these bridges, connectivity will definitely help us. And thank you very much to SND Group for this initiative. And I also want to underline the importance of our collaboration, our progressive, our socialists cooperation. As you may know, in Turkey for the moment, the leader of our political movement, İmamoğlu, is imprisoned. That was an injustice, and we really thank our progressist friends, our PES, part of European Socialist and SND Group, for the solidarity that they showed us. These kinds of developments are not isolated to the national boundaries, but these are now global European struggles. That's why giving this fight with you, it's a strength for us, and I know that in any other enlargement countries, socialist, social democrat, progressist parties, communities can suffer from the same difficulties, and it's good to be together. So this kind of events definitely help us. Thank you very much for giving me the floor.
Thank you, Onur, and I want to say the floor is now open to anybody or everybody. More, so whoever wants to take the floor, make some remarks. I have to apologize that Olga Stefaniskaya is, because she announced that they have a government meeting in Ukraine, so therefore we try to move her at the end of the panel. Seems to take longer. So I don't know, maybe we can ask Thijs Ruiten as S&D shadow also on Ukraine to take the floor.
Now you're giving me a lot of honor by speaking instead of... No, of course it's a pity that she cannot make it online, but of course we understand the seriousness of the situation. Even today, even at this very hour, Ukraine remains under attack. And if we needed an example today, why it is so important to have the revitalization of the bond that we have with all of you, it is probably in Ukraine. Because Ukraine shows us that peace, a just peace and a lasting peace will only come when it's also combined with fairness and with justice. And that is exactly what is missing now from the strategy that has been deployed towards that lasting peace. And we need to keep pushing for more military and financial support for Ukraine today. It's not over yet. It will only be over if this lasting and just peace will be achieved. But it also is a motivation for all of us, and I'm not saying this as an advice to our friends from the other candidate countries, but also as an advice to ourselves here in the European Parliament. We need to understand the historic moment that we have, and which sometimes only passes once in a couple of years, the historic moment, the historic opportunity that we have to do something that our children and our grandchildren, not only the ones in the candidate countries, but also ours, will be thankful for. And I want to end this brief intervention, dear Andreas, with something that I got used to tell people in schools when I do school visits in the Netherlands, because I noticed that people forgot why we started all this 70 years ago. We started it for a reason, and it was not intended to end with 6 or 12 countries or 27. It was intended to be a complete unification of Europe under the values of democracy, freedom and justice. A complete unification of Europe. So we have to remind ourselves, and also new generations, that we did not start this just as a project for these 6, 12 or 27 countries, but for this purpose. And that will be only finished when we have met the objective that we are setting here today again to ourselves, including the candidate countries that are present here today, but also, of course, Ukraine. And I hope that we will pass on the message also to Olha later on. But we need to take example in the braveness of the Ukrainian people today and do exactly what we need to do also for ourselves, for our children, for our grandchildren. So leave it there, Andreas.
Thank you, Thijs Reuten, who belongs to the group of MEPs which are always closely working on all these enlargement relations. I'll collect. I have now Giacomo Filipek, the Secretary General of the Party of European Socialists, which of course is one of the partners of this Willy Brandt program, and the second foot where we are marching towards a better and more fair enlargement. Please, Giacomo.
Thank you, Andy. Since we are in the Willy Brandt program, I think it's an obligation to also quote his words, and I think it fits perfectly with the intervention of Thijs. Now, what belongs together will grow together, and this applies for Europe as a whole. These were his words on the Berlin Wall. The 1989, long time ago, but we may say that our political position is exactly the same and didn't change. The Western Balkans, Turkey, can be part of Europe as a whole if the logic of a community based on the fundamental values of democracy, rule of law, human dignity, continues to be inspiring for all this beautiful continent in the world. But unfortunately, we know that there are many forces at play that do not share at all this view. And I believe that as a political movement, as the Party of European Socialists, the Progressive, the Democrats, we have to be aware of who our enemies are and how they play the game against our political parties. And we have to show no hesitation in defending and supporting our members, especially in this complicated region. I believe that the very first challenge that we have ahead in the next weeks will be to show all the possible solidarity and support to our friends and comrades from Albania for their elections on the 11th of May, because I do not see a path towards the European integration without the current government. And it is crucial that they continue to bring the Albanian citizenship towards their European future where they belong. So this is the very first message that I hope and believe our S&D friends and comrades will make their own when we get closer to the electoral day. But I also hear, and I hear it both from our friend Albin Kurti and Venko Filipce, some critical remark on the way the European Union is behaving as an institution vis-à-vis their specific situation. And they are not here in this panel, but I know that they will be part of the next one. I'm referring to our Serbian comrades. They may have similar critical remarks to express. Be sure of one thing. As the Party of European Socialists, we do not hesitate to stand where we need to stand, on the right side of history, vis-à-vis those players that undermine democratic fundamental principles, rule of law, and respect of human dignity and human rights. We will be with you in this, and if the European institutions, the European Commission, is not brave enough to stand for what truly matters for the life of the citizens of your countries, we will be there to remind them what their obligation is. And I trust that our MEPs in the S&D group will do the same. So I conclude by saying you can rely on our support, and we will never leave you alone.
Thank you, Giacomo Filipek, Secretary General of the Party of European Socialists. I will now put in also my Willy Brandt quote, as it is necessary. No, but as everybody does. And Willy Brandt was also saying peace, but peace without freedom is not real peace. And we can add also freedom without social justice is also no real freedom. So we see also how these issues are interconnected. I have now two speakers already who wanted raised the card for having the floor. The next one is Anna Dolice from the Party for the People of Georgia.
Thank you so much. It's a real pleasure to be here. Thank you to the European Parliament, to our partners, foundations, PES, SND, everyone, for having us here. We are here with a very representative Georgian delegation, and it's a pleasure to participate and to aspire to become part of this community. And echoing what was said by Madam Vice President, if there are moments when in Europe, in the European Union, people have forgotten what it is to be like a European, or if there is not enough inspiration to remember what it is that the European Union was founded for, Georgia, along with other countries, is a place where you can get an inspiration from, and I'm sure you're aware of it. Georgia, which might seem like a periphery for Europe, is an inspiration to remember the values for which this union was founded, as Georgian people have been demonstrating in the street for more than 120 days for Georgia's European aspiration. However, just as other countries, candidate countries, we are a buffer zone and we are a battleground between authoritarianisms and democracy. Just as other candidate countries who will speak and have spoken today, Georgia now is taking the hits, and Georgian people, 85% of whom are pro-Europe, despite of the huge governmental propaganda against Europe. 6 governmental TVs running 24-hour propaganda to ruin the idea of Europe for the Georgian people, and it's not working. So we are currently the buffer zone between European Union and authoritarianisms. And where we are lagging behind is the project of Authoritarianism, Inc. You know, the project of Authoritarianism, Inc. is very successful. They're fast because they're centralized, they're hierarchically organized, and they share information much more quickly than we do. So the foreign agents law, for example, that has been going on around authoritarian countries, that is curbing civil society in Georgia and political parties as well, quite soon, every day. It's been shared around authoritarianism very fast, and we're lagging behind. We have to be, as democracies with EU, as still hybrid countries, we have to be 10 times faster in networking and sharing information and sharing ideas. And so I hope that this conference and Willy Brandt program, reinstatement of it, will serve as a way to speed up the process of sharing knowledge. It's not so costly, but and therefore we have to use it as much as possible. Thank you once again.
Thank you, Anna, and definitely it is a starting point of sharing information and joining forces. The next is Tudor Ulyanovsky, from the president from the PSDE from Moldova.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much. It's an honor to be here today to celebrate an important moment in history, and I fully agree that it's very important that each of us makes everything possible that all of our countries, especially for the Republic of Moldova, does everything to maintain strategic course for European integration. I am the president of European Social Democratic Party in the Republic of Moldova, which is the first extra-parliamentary party in the Republic of Moldova and the second largest pro-European party in my country. Definitely, we encourage the government to continue its efforts to strengthen and to make sure that there are sustainable steps conducted in the process of negotiations and opening of the chapters. And of course, we would like to encourage that this happens faster, but we do understand that it's very important to upkeep the EU standards while doing that. And from this perspective, we are definitely understanding that there is a huge risk, having in mind the electoral year in the Republic of Moldova, and in the fall of this year, Moldova is going to have parliamentary elections. And to be very honest and very blunt, the last thing we want to see is a Georgian scenario. My colleague from Georgia has mentioned that. And it is very important to make sure that the true and authentic pro-European parties reach in the next parliament of the Republic of Moldova, and to avoid those that are officially declaring themselves as anti-European, or those who have become European overnight, which we cannot trust. And from that perspective, I think it's very important to have the support from the European Parliament, from the European community, from the brothers and sisters from the S&D group here. And from our side, we will do everything possible to make that happen, and count on our support. And we're ready to have open dialogue, but also to provide our expertise in the process of Moldova's accession to the European Union. I thank you for that.
Thank you, Tudor. I'm still looking in the room not to oversee anybody, but if not, I would, because... Tonino. Perfect.
Thank you, Andreas. Of course, I also feel a pleasure to be with all of our friends from sister parties and all who can contribute to advance with the idea of next round of European enlargement in, I do hope, not so distant future. But we need to be very realistic and aware about hurdles we need to overcome in the next, I don't want to say couple of years, but next couple of the months. So in that sense, I would like to ask two questions. First, to our dear colleagues, Taulant Bala and our friend from the Northern Macedonia, Venko Filipce. It's been for a long time that Northern Macedonia and Albania were bonds. Of course, on their way to European Union, you almost started together, and for a long time you've been in the same position. But in the meantime, the one buzzword appeared, it's decoupling. Now Northern Macedonia, in a way, is still where it was, and Albania, in a way, open chapters, and I would like to congratulate you, well deserved, in a way, but would like to ask you, what's the future of your relationship, in a way, and how do you communicate it now? Do you from Albania feel that you maybe now it's a time to do extra mile regarding the Northern Macedonia because of the certain, of course, influence you may have in the country, and to open maybe some channels to enhance also international position of the Northern Macedonia in the near future? And my second question, I would like to ask Prime Minister Albin Kurti and Taulant, you as well. Of course, we are here talking about Europe, European perspective for your countries, about history of policy of enlargement, but is, I don't want to say pink, but orange elephant is in the room. So my question is, especially regarding the time we remember so vividly in the first Trump mandate, Do you feel right now a certain undue pressure coming from the new American administration on the Republic of Kosovo in a way, especially you in Albania? Do you feel right now that history is repeating like it happened during Mr. Granell period of time? Because we cannot exclude from equation American influence on the Western Balkans. So for us it would be very, very, very important to know what's going on, because we see absolutely turmoils in global politics, and it's very hard to believe that we will not feel any type of echo coming from the, I don't want to say anymore white, but a black house which maybe resonated on the Western Balkans. Thank you in advance.
They're following online.
Thank you, Tonino. By the way, now I have now online connection from the S&D platform from Ukraine. Bogdan Ferenc, who's with us. Hello, Bogdan.
Yeah, hello, dear Mr. Schieder. Nice to have this chance to speak, and thanks a lot for this initiative, because just a few weeks ago I had the chance to visit the European Parliament France S&D group, and we just discussed briefly also the new opportunities that could be very useful in the context of accession process, especially what you mentioned, by the way, better and fair accession. I really like this message, and I think that in our context, when the Russian war is still continuing, and we are also designing our post-war future in the context of fair recovery of Ukraine, this part of this process, better and fair accession process to the European Union, should be one of the main pillars. And on behalf of SD Platform, I would like to say a big thanks to all of our friends, Thais, Tonino, all other friends, Giacomo, for supporting us, because I think in these challengeable times it's necessary to have, as our friends from Georgia mentioned, inspiration. Of course, all of the candidate countries, they have their own past peculiarities, but also we have a lot of in common, and this kind of exchange of experience could be quite useful. But at the same time, on behalf of SD Platform, I also have a few thoughts how we can just use this program, Willy Brandt program, in the context of strengthening our institutional capacity, because I think for all our countries it is necessary to strengthen our institutional capacity to make this accession process more better and fair. Also, how we can just focus on social context, I mean social dialogue in all this adaptation of our legislation, because with opening different chapters, it is necessary also to evaluate what kind of impact on our society these changes will have, and we need also progressive actors in our respectful countries to do this. That's why also quite practical thought or recommendations that we could also discuss, how we can just use also bilateral tracks in this Willy Brandt program to achieve the good results. I mean, at the political level, at the level of procedures, I mean, legislation, institutional capacity, but also we need, as I mentioned, progressive actors at local levels, at national levels, who could just be very efficient in the context of achieving more better and fair accession process. And last but not least, now greetings from Kiev. Unfortunately, these days and nights were quite horrible. Kryvyi Rih a few days ago, a big tragedy. A lot of children were killed by Russian missiles. And as I mentioned, the Russian war is still continuing. But at the same time, we should not only design our post-war future, but also we should work hard together with you, with S&D Group, with Party of European Socialists, with FEPS, with other partners and organizations to achieve more fair recovery. And I'm proud to say that we have this kind of vision, and our representative from SD platforms, they are now also helping supporting S&D group in the European Parliament, and I hope that with this kind of frame we could just do more. Thanks a lot, and good luck with this today meeting.
Thank you, and best greetings also to Kiev from Brussels. And now I have four more speakers, and then I would close the list and ask the podium to give a short answer, and then we can continue. So the next one is Frauke Sebas. She's from the Stiftung Wissenschaft und Politik.
Thank you very much. Thank you to all the speakers for your interesting remarks. I would like to take the chance to ask three very short questions. One being on what was already mentioned, the growth plans, now referring especially to North Macedonia and to Kosovo. Given that both of these countries are currently under political blockage from the side of the EU, and the growth plans, of course, theoretically offer a chance to progress regardless. So I would be interested in your view on this. Mr. Filipe, your foreign minister, has been here last week, and he seemed very optimistic on the progress that North Macedonia can take. I would be very interested in your position. Then Albin Kurti, Mr. Prime Minister, you mentioned the Berlin process, and of course this year it is hosted by the UK, which has been kind of painfully absent from the enlargement process for some time. So maybe if you could share some expectations. And very lastly, coming from Germany, we are, of course, in the phase of a new government formation. The last government, after a very promising start, of course, the SPD-led government, very frankly, had a rather shaky footprint when it comes to the enlargement policy. So I'd be interested, maybe to all the speakers, what your expectations would be under the new German government. Thank you.
Thank you. And the last speaker from the podium is Ramina Kuko from Albania.
Thank you. I have a very, very short remark because we're talking about the future, but the future is youth. And unfortunately, youth is not voting us in Europe, and youth is not voting us in the US, meaning that probably this could be an idea on the education of youth on individual parties in our countries. It's really important in order to push forward our ideas regarding what's happening in the social democratic front, and to capacitate them in order to recognize all the propaganda that they are being under radiation. Because I'm very fearful that with the actual hype that exists on the far right and the right, where youth is more present there and not supporting the social democratic values, we are going probably to lose even the next train of elections. And we can speak here the best ideas ever, but if we are not in power, then it's useless to talk about them. So this was my remark. Thank you.
Thank you, Ramina. And then now there is a lot of questions from youth to Berlin process. I might ask maybe the podium from in reversed order like we started. So, Wenko, please.
Thank you. Let me try to be very specific and concrete. The foreign minister might be here, but he just do talking. They don't do anything. What's behind it, we don't know. When we were decoupled from Albania, it's difficult to express the feelings. First of all, sincere congratulations on the progress. It's a real example on how a country or government should work for the good of the people and the whole region, basically. So it is decoupling, whether it's the feeling of complete, we were very sorry, we were very, very disappointed. Let's say a complete opposite feeling of decoupling with my wife, for example. However, I think we should not let much time for this difference to grow in between, because then later it's very difficult to catch up. The real question is what is the reason of the current North Macedonia government not to progress with the whole European path? We are suspecting that it is a huge influence of Hungarian government. Very tight relations with our Prime Minister, with Prime Minister Orban, loaning huge amount of money in completely untransparent way, announcing some big projects. Whether there is a business interest, we will see. The time will show. And whether there is a third party, third country interest behind it, it's also a huge question. Now, it is also very important on what is going to be the role of the Albanian parties in the ruling coalition in the government currently in the North Macedonia. When the government was formed, they have promised that constitutional changes are going to happen in 6 months period of time. And now they have cancelled their promise. They should not do this. They are one of the crucial factors without which the government is not going to have a majority. They should push the nationalistic and right-wing VMRO to proceed with constitutional changes and to open the negotiating chapters with the EU. Thank you.
Thank you. Before I give the floor to Taulan, I just want to mention, I remember the reception when the negotiations started with Albania and North Macedonia. And there were still two social democratic socialist prime ministers giving together this reception and celebrating. And as this is no longer the truth that there are two social democratic prime ministers, this shows also the difference which the government and social democrats can make. Tauland, please.
Dear Tonino, I'm not happy that North Macedonia is lagging behind now. For so many reasons. You remember when this all started, North Macedonia got the candidate status on 2001. We got the candidate status on 2014. Montenegro started the negotiations on 2012. Serbia started the negotiations on 2014. We would like very much that every country starts the negotiations. Also, Kosovo deserves to start the negotiations as soon as we can, as soon as you can. And we want very much North Macedonia to start the negotiations. But international agreements need to be respected. There was an agreement, and the current government, the current majority in North Macedonia has to respect it. And they are lucky because the opposition will vote in favor. So when you have the opposition voting in favor, it's much more easy. So they have to deliver on this. And Venko Filipce was clear on the position of the, as an Albanian here, I can also tell that both Albania and Kosovo have appealed to the Albanian political parties in Kosovo to support, because I didn't say at the beginning, but I want to say it now, and for those who do not know. We Albanians have a say. It comes from our Renaissance. One of our biggest writers was saying that for we Albanians, the sun rises from the west. So basically, we have this kind of orientation for life. Secondly, I would also, it's a very difficult question, what you did after. But we are somehow also on this regard very, very quiet. The question about Mr. Trump as President of the United States. In Albania, if Albanians are asked to join the European Union, more than 90% are in favor. I don't think there is any other country in Europe, also including members of the European Union, that has such a rate of support about joining the European Union. But we are also lucky because we are the most pro-American country in Europe. So these two connect. to each other, in my opinion. And the victory of Mr. Trump as President of the United States could also be seen as a big opportunity for Europe. At first, to think for stronger cooperation. And secondly, you know this quote of Albert Einstein, in the middle of every difficulty, there is an opportunity. Let us see this as an opportunity for Europe. Thank you.
Thank you, Tauland, for the quote. So where does the sun in Moldova rise?
Definitely in the West. I think for all of the countries that share the same EU values, this is true. And I will only say that for us, enlargement, we see enlargement as in EU's own geopolitical interest, because Europe will be safe when all of Europe will be safe and secure. And from this perspective, until all countries that share the same values are part of the European Union, we won't be able to speak about the core objective of why the European Union has brought itself together in the first place. So here I definitely support a macro approach when it comes to the next wave of enlargement of the European Union. Very quickly on, even though it wasn't a question, on the engagement of youth, I think this is really core to our future of each country independently, but also of Europe. We in Moldova see a systemic problem of access of information, mostly through one source, and those are social media platforms, and it's extremely difficult to understand the bubbles that our youth live in. TikTok, Telegram, and other social media platforms have an extreme influence on how we perceive the world around us, and we do see these as channels to propagate disinformation among particularly the young ones. At the same time, in Moldova, we have started discussions at university level, at high school level, about the European Union, about the values that we share with the European Union, the benefits of the Union, but we need more of that. And when it comes to countering disinformation, I think no country can really stand alone in its efforts. We really need to think of a wider approach, how to strengthen communication about the European Union, particularly also among the young ones. In Moldova, no youngster remembers how it was to stand in lines for a visa, to be able to go even to neighboring Romania for a short period of time in our history. And it's unfortunate because, you know, being closer to the European Union brings advantages that we today take for granted in candidate countries like Moldova. Finally, the only question addressed on Moldova, how we see the German next government, I will only say that we look forward to keeping the same excellent cooperation that we had so far. For us, this is a core supporter of our reforms, of the implementation of our reforms, and we look forward to continuing the same good cooperation.
Thank you, Kristina Gerasimov and Albin Kurti, please.
Thank you. We have a 3D relationship with the United States: defense, development, and diplomacy. When it comes to defense, we did co-deployment a couple of years ago in Kuwait, and this year we are going to be also hosting country, not only participating one in Defender Europe 25. We're buying from US Javelin anti-tank system, but also Black Hawk helicopters. Because we have 48 forward operating bases in Serbia around our territory. 28 being military, 20 gendarmeria. And also Serbia brought close to our border, but also to the border of Bulgaria and North Macedonia in this southern part of Serbia, FK3 system from China, because they were buying this from China. So unfortunately, even as a social democrat, we have to spend in security and defense. I would rather spend this elsewhere, but it's a necessity, because you have to defend sovereignty and territorial integrity. There are no more internal sources of destabilization in my country that we cannot control or manage. But incursions from Serbia happen occasionally. Kosovo is now much stronger than 5 years ago. That's why I'm optimistic for the times ahead. The other D, development, with the shutdown of USAID, we are hurt because USAID did help us. However, we did very well in terms of economic growth and social progress and democratic advancing and rule of law being in place and in order everywhere in every municipality of our country. So again, we shall prevail in this. The other D, diplomacy, there has been a couple of tweets against me during the campaign. We got 42% in the end, which is much more than 2 other parties combined, second and third, who are right-wing. However, these tweets against me, I don't know how much influence, impact they had. We didn't do a proper analysis yet, and I don't know whether it can be really measured. However, I think that we will be able to navigate. On the other hand, it's very difficult to know how things will unfold. In my view, US under Trump administration is dealing with Ukraine and Russia in order not to deal with Ukraine and Russia, because they want to have all the time, nerves and energy for this other struggle with People's Republic of China. This is my impression. So let's see how this will play out, but we have to have in our continent strong solidarity, but on the other hand, we have to strengthen our countries, each one of us. European Union has 3 important pillars. One is peace through anti-fascism, not any kind of peace, anti-fascist kind of peace. Second is European continental welfare state. Social justice is needed always, everywhere. And third is NATO security umbrella. We want to join also NATO, not only EU, to both benefit and contribute. So these 3 pillars are having some challenges, but I think that European Union has the necessary capability, capacity, but also rich tradition to come out victorious in 21st century like in 20th century it did. Berlin process is something that we look very much forward. In London, we had Summit of Berlin process in 2018. I liked very much the language and the content of the declaration back in London. I hope that we're going to see the same again. But the most important thing is this agreement on recognition of diplomas and qualifications of higher education. Because freedom of movement and freedom of the labor is nothing without recognition of diplomas. And Kosovo and Serbia still haven't fixed this thing. So I really hope that in London we will have this venue that finally Berlin process, common regional market, will be fully in place by having recognition of diplomas. What we ask from European Commission is to lift the measures against our country. My friend José Borrell, former High Representative and Vice President of European Commission, he wrote a letter to EU27 saying that the measures against Kosovo should be lifted. But as you know, with a silent email, they've put measures, but now when they are about to lift the measures, it is enough, a member or a member and a half, to say no or not to say yes, and then measures are not lifted. So we need measures to be lifted. We need to get questionnaire from European Commission, and we need candidate status. Not just because this is something that people want, but I believe that our country deserves.
Thank you, Prime Minister Albin Kurti, and thank you all. This is not the end of today, because we will have now a short coffee break, and shortly after 5 o'clock, Tonino Pizzula will continue with a podium together with our friends from Montenegro, Serbia, and Georgia. And meanwhile, don't forget, please, all the speakers, all the MEPs, all the, let's say, non-European Union guests invited, and also our friend, of course, Giacomo and Laszlo from FEPS and Ton, to join here for a famous family picture.